Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going exploring the world of modern paganism.
Right.
And to help me with that, I've got joining me an expert.
Hello.
Today, we are going to be looking at excerpts from the book The New Pagan
Okay.
by Ennis. And this book, I mean, there's so much in here. It's really a kind of a broad overview of um, a lot of different paths within modern paganism.
Yeah, I think what I find really fascinating about this book is that it doesn't just define paganism, which can be weird because it's such a broad umbrella, but it really delves into the nuances of how people kind of live out these beliefs
Yeah.
in really practical ways.
I mean, that's what I think is so interesting is, you hear the word paganism and you think of, nature and in the old ways, kind of the ancient
Right.
practices. But how does that translate to today?
Yeah, and I think you're right. Like, there's so much diversity even within paganism.
Mm.
It's not a monolithic religion.
Yeah.
So it's more like a tapestry. You have all these different threads, and they're woven together. And so, yeah, the book does a good job of showing that.
Okay, so why don't we, for somebody who maybe doesn't know anything about paganism, what would be your 30-second, 1 minute kind of overview of what it is?
Sure. Um, I think at its heart, paganism is a reverence for nature.
Okay.
It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of all living things
Mm-hmm.
and honoring the cycles of life and death and rebirth. It's really earth-centered spirituality, acknowledging the divine in the natural world.
So it's not like you're not worshiping a deity in a church, but you're experiencing the divine through nature. Would that be?
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
And, some paths within paganism do have deities, but the focus is often on this kind of direct personal connection
Right.
with the sacredness of the natural world.
I see. Historically, when we think of paganism, I mean, are we talking ancient times or, what kind of, where are we at in terms of the history of this?
Sure. I mean, paganism has very deep historical roots, and they span across continents and timelines. I mean, you think about the Celts, Native American spirituality, Shintoism in Japan, even the Mayans. And what's so interesting is that even though these cultures are so geographically diverse, they share this connection to the natural world.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, it's almost like it's in us somehow, it transcends.
It does make you think.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, are we talking about ancient times? I mean, has this evolved over time?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the book even talks about how Shintoism, with their reverence for nature spirits, is
Yes.
still so present in modern Japanese culture. I
Mm.
mean, even something like their beautiful cherry blossom festivals, they're not just about the beauty of the cherry blossoms, but also honoring those spirits
Yeah.
of nature.
It's a thread that connects us all.
It is.
I mean, is there anything, physically that we see today that we could say, oh, that's from, ancient times, in terms of
Oh,
your
right.
beliefs? Or...
I mean, Stonehenge is a prime example.
Yeah.
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 It's believed to have been used for rituals that were aligned with the solstices and the equinoxes.
Yeah.
Can you imagine standing within that ancient circle
Well,
and feeling the energy of, so many generations who gathered there to connect with the cycles of nature?
it's powerful stuff. Okay, so let's get to modern paganism. I mean, it's not just a relic of the past,
Yeah.
right?
And it's we often refer to it as neo-paganism. It's
Yeah.
a very vibrant and it's a living tradition, constantly evolving.
And what sets neo-paganism apart?
I think what the book points out is that a key difference is that neo-paganism places a strong emphasis on the individual's experience, their interpretation, and it's less about rigid dogma and more about personal exploration.
So it's almost like you're finding your own path within this, framework, this larger framework.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's part of what makes it so appealing.
Yeah.
It's this sense of freedom and autonomy that it offers.
Okay. So let's kind of get into some of the nitty-gritty here. I mean, what are some of these different paths? Kind of give me the menu.
Okay.
What's on the neo-pagan menu?
Let's start with animism, okay?
Okay.
One of the oldest and most widespread spiritual perspectives. So with animism, everything in nature has a spirit. Everything has a soul. Not just animals, but rocks, rivers, trees,
Right.
even the wind.
So you walk through the forest and it's like everything has a life to it.
It does. I mean, and this belief really influences a person's values
Mm-hmm.
and their actions. You know, if you believe that a tree has a spirit, you're not going to just chop it down without thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, animism fosters this deep respect for the environment.
It's almost like, I mean, we're talking about, today, the crisis that we're in environmentally. If we all kind of had that perspective, I mean, our actions would be different, I'm assuming.
It would change things, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And it's not just about avoiding harm. It's also about actively engaging with these nature spirits, through rituals, offerings.
Really?
And these practices can vary widely.
I see.
You see the veneration of water spirits like Mami Wata in West Africa.
Okay.
And then you have, the worship of Pachamama, Mother Earth, in the Andes.
Wow. Okay, so very, very different expressions of the same kind of
It is, yeah.
general idea. Okay. All right. What else is on the menu? What's next?
Okay, so one that's particularly popular, especially in Western cultures, is Wicca.
Oh, okay.
Now, Wicca, it's often associated with witchcraft, but it's much more nuanced than that.
Yeah, let's get into that.
Okay.
I mean, what makes Wicca, different?
So, Wicca blends elements of witchcraft with nature reverence.
What?
And a key principle is the celebration of both the feminine and the masculine divine energy.
So it's not just nature, but it's also these two forces, the balance.
Exactly. And that balance extends to how Wiccans interact with the world.
Sure.
There's the Wiccan Rede,
Okay.
which is a sort of ethical guideline.
Right.
And it emphasizes harm none.
Now, how, literally do they take that? I mean, is that,
Well, it can manifest in a variety of ways, from environmental activism, sustainable living practices, to just a general commitment to ethical conduct
right.
in all aspects of life.
Yeah, so it's really all-encompassing, just that one, harm none.
It is. It's kind of their guiding principle.
Right, right. And so within Wicca, I mean, are there different, types of Wicca?
There are. There are different traditions within Wicca, like Gardnerian, Dianic, and the Alexandrian Wicca.
Yeah.
They all share this core emphasis on ethical living and the reverence for the interconnectedness of all things.
Okay, now I'm kind of fascinated with the fertility deities in Wicca. What's that all about?
They represent, they're very powerful symbols, and they represent the life-giving force of nature.
Okay.
The cyclical nature of existence. It's really honoring that interconnectedness between humans and the earth, recognizing that we're part of this, grand cycle of birth, growth, death, renewal.
Yeah, it's almost like instead of us being separate from nature, we're a part of nature.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, next on the menu, what do we got?
Okay. So let's dive into pantheism.
Okay.
And pantheism often resonates with those who have more philosophical bent. The core belief here is that God is identical with the universe.
Okay.
That divinity is everywhere and in everything.
Oh, so it's like every grain of sand, every leaf on a tree is God.
Yeah, you got it. And it's really about experiencing the divine through that direct contact with nature.
Right.
Through meditation, mindfulness, just appreciating the beauty, the wonder.
So it seems like it's much more personal. You don't need, someone to tell you how to connect with God. It's much more internal.
Yeah. You don't have the outward expressions, but you're cultivating that inner awareness.
Right.
And I think a natural kind of offshoot of that is a deep care for the environment,
Yeah.
Because if you see the divine in all of creation, you're going to want to protect it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's not just our home,
Right.
it's God.
Yes.
Okay. All right, what else?
Okay. So this sense of reverence for the earth is also at the heart of another path, Gaianism.
Now, Gaia, I mean, I know Gaia from, Greek mythology, but how does that translate into this?
So in Gaianism, Gaia, the ancient Greek goddess of the earth, really takes center stage.
Okay.
She's often referred to as Mother Earth, and she represents the planet as this living...
So it's literally Mother Earth.
It is. A conscious entity deserving of our deepest reverence.
And so, practically speaking, what does that look like?
So for Gaians, the planet isn't just a resource to be exploited.
Right.
It's a sacred being to be
Yeah.
honored, to be protected.
Yeah.
And so there's a very strong emphasis
Yeah.
on sustainability, conservation, and living in harmony with nature.
So it's really, environmentalism is part of their.
It's a spiritual call to action.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's very active.
Very much so.
It's not just a, I believe this. It's
Right.
I'm going to do something about it.
It is. Yeah.
Okay. All right. What's next?
Okay, so let's explore Druidism,
Oh.
a path with ancient Celtic roots. It's experiencing a really interesting modern revival.
Okay.
So imagine yourself standing in a grove of ancient trees,
Mm-hmm.
feeling the energy of the forest all around you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the essence of Druidism. It's the reverence for trees, for rivers, for mountains.
Yeah.
These natural spaces are seen as sacred,
Okay.
as portals to the divine.
So it's almost like, I hate to use this word, but it's like a, almost like a hippie kind of
Yeah,
vibe to it, right?
It can be, but it's also about, actively engaging with nature. Music, poetry, storytelling, natural healing practices, all part of it.
Interesting.
Yeah. And what's really fascinating is the role of bards.
Oh, okay.
They're the keepers of this ancient knowledge.
Right.
The storytellers, who preserve and share the wisdom of the tradition. It's oral tradition.
So it's about community.
It is.
It's about keeping it alive.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Now for something a little bit different.
Okay.
Let's talk about heathenry and Odinism, paths that kind of delve into those pre-Christian religions of the Germanic peoples.
Right. And so these paths,
Mm.
they offer a really unique perspective
Mm.
and often misunderstood.
Yeah.
Heathenry, in particular, seeks to revive these ancient traditions and honoring the pantheon of Norse gods and goddesses. I mean, you've probably heard names like Odin, Thor, Freya.
Yeah, I know those names, but
Right.
tell me a little bit about that.
So Odin is the Allfather. He's associated with wisdom, war, death, and poetry. He's a very complex figure, really. Thor, of course, is the thunder god, known for his strength, that mighty hammer. And Freya is a goddess of love, beauty, fertility, magic. They're quite the crew.
Yeah,
They are.
a lot of power there,
They are.
a lot of energy. Okay, so how, what do heathens, how do they connect?
So it's more about building a relationship with the gods,
Okay,
seeking their guidance, their wisdom.
got it.
And so there are, the book mentions rituals called blots. These are offerings made to the gods for blessings and support.
I see.
And then, of course, they really follow the seasonal cycles,
Yeah.
There's divination using runes.
Oh, wow.
And then there's a very strong sense of community called kindreds or hearths.
Interesting. So it's
Yeah.
it's both individual and
It is. It's that balance again.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Odinism, you said.
Odinism, right. So it focuses specifically on the worship of Odin, the All-Father. It emphasizes his connection to wisdom, war, death, poetry, really embracing both the light and shadow.
It sounds intense.
It can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we got to wrap up this section, but there's one more I
Oh,
gotta
yeah.
get to.
Right.
Shamanism.
Okay. Shamanism. Now, shamanism is fascinating because it's not tied to a specific culture or religion.
All right.
It's more of a universal archetype.
Okay.
It's a way of interacting with the spiritual world that's found in cultures all over the planet.
So what makes it unique?
It's all about altered states of consciousness.
Oh, okay.
Shamans are these spiritual intermediaries.
Got it.
They can connect with the spirit world through trance states,
And they do that.
drumming, chanting, other techniques.
Okay.
And they act as these bridges between the human and spirit realms, performing healing rituals, seeking guidance, maintaining that balance.
Wow. So that takes a lot of skill and
It does.
and
Dedication,
yeah.
a willingness to push those boundaries of perception.
And this is all over the world. I mean, this isn't,
it is.
like you said, specific to any
Not culture.
Yeah, it's really fascinating.
It's amazing, isn't it? That as humans, we've been doing this for so long.
We have.
Okay, so we've kind of gone through the menu,
Yeah.
this neo-pagan menu. So, somebody is listening and they say, well, this is great. How do I become a pagan?
That is a great question, and one that the book addresses quite in detail.
It really is a process of self-discovery.
Okay.
And often it starts with understanding your motivations.
Okay. Motivations. What does that mean?
So what draws you to paganism?
Yeah.
What are you seeking?
So I need to do some soul searching.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Are you yearning for a deeper connection with nature?
Okay.
Maybe you're, disenchanted with mainstream religions and looking for something that feels more aligned.
Right.
Maybe you're drawn to the magic, the mystery of it all,
Mm-hmm.
or you simply resonate with the ethical principles. I mean, there are many reasons.
So it's a very, very, it's as diverse as the people
Yeah.
who practice it. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the key is to be honest with yourself about what you're looking for.
Yeah. And that's just the first step.
Okay. All right. Well, it sounds like we've got a lot more to cover. Stay tuned, everybody, because our deep dive into modern paganism, it continues. So we were talking about understanding your motivations for why, you might want to become a pagan.
Yeah, yeah. It's really about being clear on what you're looking for. What questions do you have? What needs are you hoping that this path might fulfill?
Okay. And then what? So you've done that. You've figured that out. Now what?
Now it's time for some research.
Yeah.
You have to explore the different paths and traditions. Remember that menu,
Yeah.
that neo-pagan menu we were talking about?
Yeah.
Animism, Wicca, Pantheism, Druidism, all of those. Each of those paths offers something a little bit different.
So I gotta try each one out. Like, how do I do that? I mean, do I just...
Well, just like with food, what resonates with one person might not appeal to another.
Right.
So it's really about finding what feels authentic to you, what really speaks to your heart.
So how do I do that? I mean, do I, is it reading? Is it talking to people?
Well, reading's a great start, of course.
Okay.
I mean, books like The New Pagans are fantastic. But
Yeah.
there's also, websites, online forums, even, podcasts like ours.
There you go.
There are local pagan groups and communities, and you can even attend events.
Okay. So community. I
Yeah.
mean, it's one thing to read about it, but I imagine it's another thing to really connect with people who are,
Absolutely.
know?
Finding a community, finding a mentor can be so valuable.
especially if you're just starting out.
Especially then, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, having a guide.
Yeah.
Right. Somebody, who's been there, done that. They can answer questions. They can, offer advice.
Yeah. And, a mentor can offer, personalized instruction because everybody's a little bit different in what they need.
Yeah.
And a community can provide, that sense of camaraderie, a place to celebrate, to share experiences. And, the book emphasizes that paganism is often a communal path.
So it's really about connecting with others.
It is.
Not just nature, but other people.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got our motivations, we've done our research, we've found a community or a mentor. What
Now is the fun part.
Okay.
You get to establish your own personal practices.
Okay. So how do I do that? I mean, is this where all the rituals come in, or...
It's really about what feels authentic to you.
Hmm.
What feels right.
Okay.
But often, creating a sacred space is a good place to start.
Like what? Like a little altar, or...
Yeah, like a little altar, a shrine. Doesn't have to be anything fancy,
Right.
A simple shelf, maybe with a few meaningful objects, crystals, feathers, stones, images that represent the deities or spirits that you connect with.
So it's really just a representation
Yeah.
of my
It's
inner...
in a landscape.
Okay.
Okay, got it.
And then there are rituals.
Okay. Now, when I hear that word, I got to be honest. I kind of think of robes and chanting and the whole
I understand.
9 yards. Is that what we're talking about?
Not necessarily. Some, pagan traditions have very elaborate ceremonies.
But rituals can be very personal
Okay.
and adaptable.
Okay.
Some people like structured rituals with specific steps. Others prefer something more spontaneous, something more intuitive.
Yeah.
Like a simple meditation in nature.
So it's really just about what feels right to me.
Yeah, and finding what helps you connect in a genuine way.
And also, I mean, does it have to stay the same?
Not at all.
Or,
Paganism is a living tradition, so it's constantly evolving.
I get it.
So, your practices can change over time.
Okay, so it's really a journey.
It is.
I'm not,
It is.
a destination. Okay.
It is.
I like that. Okay, so, we've talked about the spiritual side.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about the day-to-day. If I'm
Sure.
okay, I'm a pagan now.
Okay.
I mean, do I have to quit my job,
No, no,
live off the grid, wear robes all the time.
not at all. Some pagans choose to live alternative lifestyles.
Right.
But um, I think for most people, it's really about integrating these beliefs and practices into everyday life.
So give me an example. Like, what does that look like?
Well, we've talked about the respect for nature, that interconnectedness with all living things.
Right.
And so that often translates into a more environmentally conscious way of living.
So I'm recycling. Maybe I'm a vegetarian. I'm just more conscious of my footprint.
Exactly. You're aligning your actions with your beliefs.
Yeah.
It's walking the walk.
Yeah, yeah. And it goes beyond just that, right? I mean, we're talking like how I treat people.
Absolutely. It often, paganism prompts a shift in values and ethics.
Mm-hmm.
It's re-examining how you interact with the world, with the people in your life.
Interesting. So it's almost like it spills over.
It does.
It's not just about the spiritual practices.
It
kind of
influences everything.
Yeah. And so like let's say my hobbies, maybe they change or
It might, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, give me some practical.
You might find yourself drawn to activities that really align with your newfound beliefs.
Okay.
Things like gardening or herbalism or animal rescue or, something else entirely. You might seek out like-minded individuals who share those values. Your relationships might even deepen as you start to connect on this deeper level.
Okay. What about work? I mean, work is such a big part of most people's lives.
It is.
I mean, could this lead to like, a career change?
It's possible.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you might find yourself drawn to professions that allow you to really connect with nature, to promote healing, to contribute to the well-being of, the planet, the inhabitants.
Right.
You might become a teacher, an artist, a healer, a writer, an activist.
Okay. So, I mean, this is really, it's almost like a total life makeover in a way.
It can be.
If you really embrace this.
Yeah. Becoming a pagan, it could be transformative.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, that's amazing to think about how it touches everything. But, I'm also curious about the people. Like, are there well-known pagans like who are out there, that are
There are. Yeah.
living this and inspiring others?
The book profiles some incredible figures.
Okay.
They really demonstrate that paganism is truly a way of life. And in our next segment, we're going to explore the lives of some of these individuals who have really integrated paganism into their work, their activism, and their everyday lives. So stay tuned.
Welcome back, everybody. So, we've been exploring the principles, the paths, what makes up modern paganism.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited to kind of get into the people, the individuals, the stories, because, it's one thing to talk about it.
Absolutely.
But it's another thing to like actually see
it in action.
how it's lived.
Yeah. The book has some really inspiring figures, each one demonstrating that paganism isn't just a set of beliefs. It's a way of life.
Okay, so let's start with Starhawk.
Okay.
Now, that name rings a bell.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't know that much about her.
Well, Starhawk is practically a legend in the neo-pagan movement.
Okay.
She's an author, an activist, a teacher, and her book, The Spiral Dance, it's considered a classic in feminist spirituality.
Oh, wow.
And it really introduced countless people to paganism.
Okay.
And its connection to social justice.
So she's not just like, a spiritual seeker, but she's also like a change maker. She's out there.
Yeah, her work really goes beyond personal transformation.
Yeah.
It's about creating a more just and sustainable world.
Okay, so she really is like walking the walk,
Yes.
not just talking the talk.
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, she embodies that interconnectedness that's so central to paganism. She sees the well-being of the planet, the well-being of all beings as completely linked.
Okay, next up we have Philip Cargom.
Okay.
Now that name, I feel like I should know this, but refresh my memory.
Sure.
What did he do?
Well, Cargon is a leading figure in modern Druidry.
Okay.
He's an author, a psychologist, and he served as the chief of the order of bards, ovates, and druids for many years.
Now remind me about
Okay.
that organization.
So the Order of Bards, Ovates, and Druids is one of the largest and most well-known Druid organizations in the world.
Got it.
And they focus on reviving, adapting these ancient Druid teachings for a modern context,
Right.
emphasizing that nature connection, the personal growth, and the community.
Yeah, so he was really like a bridge builder in a way
Yeah.
between, these ancient teachings and how do we make it relevant for today?
Yeah, exactly. And he made Druidry so much more accessible
Right.
to a wider audience.
Okay, so he's kind of like the spokesperson, I guess, in a way.
In a way, yeah.
All right. This one is interesting. Margot Adler.
Oh, yeah.
So the book mentions that she was an NPR correspondent
Yes.
and a Wiccan priestess.
She was a remarkable woman.
I mean, how do you do that?
Well, she shattered stereotypes.
Yeah.
She proved that you can be a respected journalist
Right.
and a devoted spiritual practitioner.
She was not hide it.
No.
She was like open about it,
Very open.
which is pretty brave, I think, considering,
Yeah.
her profession.
Yeah, it speaks to her integrity, her willingness to live authentically.
Yeah.
And, imagine her work as a journalist,
Yeah.
covering such a wide range of topics, having that perspective,
Yeah.
being able to connect with people from all different backgrounds.
Yeah, it's fascinating to think, how her spirituality
Yeah.
informed her work or vice versa.
I think it did. And I think it's a reminder that spirituality isn't something that needs to be, compartmentalized.
Right.
It can really enrich every aspect of our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, what about Ronald Hutton?
Okay, Ronald Hutton.
What's his story?
So he's a renowned historian, an academic.
Okay.
He's written extensively on paganism and folk traditions.
Wow.
Really brings a scholarly lens to the study of paganism.
So he's kind of like the
Yeah.
the bridge between the academic world.
Yes, between academia and the pagan community.
Okay, so he's bringing, legitimacy to it in a way.
He is. His work has been instrumental in legitimizing paganism as a subject worthy of serious study.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's dispelled those myths and misconceptions and really presented a much more nuanced and informed understanding of these traditions.
Okay, so he's got the brains.
Yes.
Right. He's got that part covered.
He does.
Okay. Now for somebody who's bringing the heart into it, Jane Meredith.
Okay, Jane Meredith.
She's known for incorporating rituals and values into family life.
Yeah, so she shows how paganism can really be more than just a personal practice. It can be a way of life
Right.
that's shared with loved ones.
Okay, so what does she do?
Well, she offers practical advice, inspiring examples of how to integrate paganism into everyday family life.
Okay.
So, celebrating the seasons with nature-based rituals,
Okay.
instilling a sense of wonder and reverence in children.
So it's about creating a legacy almost.
It is passing it down to the next generation.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Okay, last but not least, we have John Beckett.
Okay, John Beckett.
What's his deal? What's special about him?
Well, John Beckett is fascinating because he challenges those stereotypes of, the fringe pagan.
Okay.
He's a corporate professional, very open about his practice.
So he's not like hiding in the
Yeah,
shadows. He's
yeah.
out there and he's like, this is me.
This is who I am.
I love that.
Yeah, and his story shows that you can really be true to your spiritual path, no matter what your career, your social standing.
Right.
And he's very generous in sharing his experiences. He offers a lot of practical advice on how to integrate those practices into a busy modern lifestyle.
So he's like, look, I'm doing it, and it's possible.
It
He's like a role model in a way.
He is, yeah, a powerful voice for the growing number of pagans who are finding their place in mainstream society.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Wow, this whole deep dive into modern paganism has been so eye-opening.
It is fascinating, isn't it?
I mean, I feel like I've just learned so much.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, what really stood out to you?
I think what's really powerful is the emphasis on personal experience. That individual interpretation, unlike some religions that are very focused on rigid doctrines,
Right.
paganism encourages a sense of autonomy, of exploration. It's about finding your own path.
Yeah, it's your own journey.
It is,
You
yeah.
know, and I think that's really what makes it so appealing to so many people today. You
Yeah.
know, like we're yearning for that authenticity, for meaning, you know, for connection. And paganism seems to offer a way to kind of reclaim that connection to nature,
It
to the
does.
sacred, to the rhythms of life that we've kind of lost.
Yes, beautifully said. And it's not just about personal fulfillment. It's about creating a more just and sustainable world.
Yeah.
Like we've seen so many pagans are really engaged in those movements,
Yeah.
the environmental and social justice movements.
So it's really inspiring to see how these beliefs
Yeah.
can translate into action, you know? Spirituality can be a force for good.
Yes, it can.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm kind of left wondering, you know, what if we all kind of approached life
Yeah.
with a bit more reverence for the natural world, you know? How might that shift our values, our actions,
Absolutely.
you know, our relationship with the planet? Something to think about.
Profound question.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for
Great.
sure. Well, thanks for joining us on this fascinating
It's
exploration.
been a pleasure of modern paganism, and we hope you've gained some new insights
Yeah.
and maybe even, sparked a little something to
Yeah,
kind of embark on your own journey of discovery.
absolutely.
So until next time,
Yeah.
everybody, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.